Well, cat's out of the bag on what the first rung is, but that doesn't mean we ought to slide right past it. This one, right? Right. It's unsafe to skip rungs on a ladder anyways. 3 takes a bit of a turn, borrowing the ideas laid in place by 2 and expanding upon those concepts. Generic weapon number 1, 2, and 3, gone. Here's a cute robot dog named Rush who can fly, act as a coil, and become a submarine. Elements or utilities are specialized, and we get some wildly different robot masters, like Top Man. Proto Man is properly introduced. Yay. Probably my favorite aspect though, Mega Man can slide now. I love this. Way to be more evasive, or simply a small burst of speed to get through a level quicker. This is such a great addition, though in Mega Man 3, Mega Man's hitbox feels a bit chunkier than his sprite. Also, this is very easy for me to say. Mega Man 3's OST is a much more enjoyable listen than 2's. Littered with earworms and groovy to boot, this OST needs more outspoken love, and I'll shout it out if I have to. Also of note, the same composer did the music for Darkwing Duck's game, so if you like the soundtrack for this game, give that one a listen. Because Lord knows you can't get the game to play it, how hard it is and how pricey it is, unless you find other unconventional means. Something neat about this game that of course continues from 1 and 2 is that you can start with a different robot master. A few of them are manageable with only the Buster, and truthfully it feels like the series slowly shifts away from doing that. It certainly felt that way in the X games, but maybe I'm just not very good at those, what have you. Anywho, I will also say this. Some of them are just downright awful to take down with the Buster shot, like Shadow Man. Myself, I usually will tackle Top Man first, but this time around I decided to go with Magnet Man. Outside the magnetic robots, they really dropped the ball in adding more push and pull elements other than those fans. The stage feels like a very safe Heat Man alteration, with a much more cheerful and catchier theme song to boot. I do like the coloring of the stage. The details here really show a leap from 1 and 2. Maybe ignore that thing that, the little glitchy thing there on the select stage for 3. There's also a little fight with Proto Man. There's going to be a bunch of these throughout the game, yay. More importantly, the fight with Magnet Man is not tough, especially when he decides he needs to pop a squat for most of the fight. I like the idea of Magnet Missile, but it feels very situational, or I just have bad luck with it. Shelving sexual innuendos away, Hardman's stage is a natural progression from Gutsman's and 1. The overall package from a presentation point is a little off, like how Magnet Man's was with little in the way of magnets. What is Hardman? Like, I see like a drill? Really? Anywho, the bees are annoying, and another fight with Proto Man, this time on less of a flat surface. Joy. Theme is very catchy one though, and is quite groovy. As for the fight with Hardman, it can be tricky as you'll be dodging somewhat homing attacks and Hardman leaping at you, plus causing that stun effect when he crashes into the dirt. Hard Knuckle is meh. I don't mind the slow movement. The ability to move it up and down is alright, but it is a very... it's one of those things you want to like fire off as close as you can, I feel, and just not even bother with trying to aim it from afar. Toy's gonna wind up here for the first time in the series, and for once there's a little more than just one thing to lean on for theming in Top Man stage. There are 2! Well, 3 if you count stringing from the cat enemy. Anywho, the stage itself starts off busy and slows down a great deal, making it a bit lopsided. The tune yet again is good, not quite the imagery of Tops, but it's a good tune. This is generally why I picked the stage first, is because it's a good first stage, I would say. Magnet Man's is as well, but I don't know, there's something about Top Man's that's alright. The fight, on the other hand, is terrible. It's a very ineffective Airman-esque fight, which hints at the absolutely abysmal topspin weapon you get, so good on them for trying something different. Barely out of the 80s, but the ninja menace still loomed large. Large enough to make a robot master who met all the people's ninja needs. The stage reminds me of Fireman's from Mega Man 1. I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's because I immediately think of Heat Man and Magnet Man's being paired together, which some people might not agree with. Shadow Man's always gives me more of a Fireman's vibe than Heat Man's, which I know sounds really silly, but that's what it is. That's what I'm sticking with it. Anywho, there's yet another Proto Man fight here. Tune isn't bad, but it's not anywhere near my favorite. I find the fight with Shadow Man to be tough, but if you have unlocked the secrets of how topspin works, kicking them in the face will do. Maybe I'm just... I mean, I did read up on it, and it's like, the more away you are from it, it seems to work, but I don't know, I just... whatever. Shadow Blade is alright. I like that it's a nerfed metal blade. All the weapons, not you topspin, but all the other weapons are a bit more even, so you don't crack open the game so easily with just using the one weapon, and then everything else gets shelved because you're like, oh, I only need this because it gets through something or because I'm out of super duper weapon. That's nice. Elect Man digivolved into Spark Man. Not nearly as powerful, but it's an on-point stage and theming. Plus, the stage theme is one of my favorite in the whole series. Just so good. What's not so good are those stupid bold enemies. They are no bueno. And that last portion with the pitfalls, bleh. As a kid, I used to always dread that, and I would definitely make sure to have the rush jet. Now I know the practice of being a little bit more patient. It's not so bad to get through, but definitely as a kid I always hated that segment there at the end. The fight with Sparkman's alright, but fairly slow. They'd improve it in Mega Man 4, as I think this one and Pharaoh Man's fight are pretty similar in action and design. Spark Shock is meh. It's cool how it can paralyze robots, but it's only something that appreciates a little bit after each playthrough, a good deal after trial and error as well, so... because a lot of times it just bounces off robots, so... neat, but... not something you're gonna really be focused on doing first time through, or your 30th time through. Oh boy, this stage is rough. A shame we didn't get that neat background for this because of the limitations of the system and all that jazz, but boy, this stage is fairly rough from the get-go. There are plenty of pitfalls, a non-combative Proto Man encounter, oh boy, and a whole back end of a stage with some fun platforming over water. With robots aplenty, you'll be fighting and jumping and doing all that sort of stuff around a stage that'd probably be better dressed up as an early Dr. Wily stage. More on that a little bit later. The music for Gemini Man's stage is alright. Not really my cup of tea, but it's serviceable. As for the fight, the first half is fairly easy. The second half can be tricky, but once you open your third eye and regulate your chi on point, well, not that bad. Gemini Laser is okay. If you miss though, it can make for an unfun time. A stage that's just sort of there. It doesn't do much. This go around, the town backdrop is nice, but yeah, Needle Man's stage feels similar to the vacuous ones from Mega Man 5. Maybe it's the coloring scheme, or just me. As for the tune, it's in a similar camp of inoffensive meh. Eventually we just get the Needle Man. It really just is not a stunner of a stage. But truth be told, evidently all the fun was taken from this stage and crammed into this one room with Needle Man's fight. I really enjoy it, even if the laser dunks on him pretty hard. It's active as Needle Man will jump up and shoot lasers. How about needles? It's active as Needle Man will jump about, shoot needles, and attack with his extendo crown thing. Yeah, it's good stuff. For me, I would say that if you want to have a little bit more of a fun time with it, definitely don't use the laser. Or, say you can only use the laser. Like, give yourself limitations on it, because, yeah, I don't know. I do like the fight a lot. Needle Shot, on the other hand, is an unremarkable weapon. Maybe having it act like Concrete Shot from Mega Man 9 would have been a neater choice. Kind of just spits out a patch of needle spikes or something, but... you already get the Snake Search already has a trajectory like that, so it'd probably been like, oh, let's get something a little different. And speaking of Snake Search, we get the last of the 8 robot masters this time around, Snake Man, and this stage is solid. Yeah, I went there. Anywho, it's active with some verticality to boot. It's not overly hard, and there are a couple of Jumbo Snake mini-bosses. Which is alright. The one complaint I do have is the last, 5th, 6th of the last portion of the stage. It's in the sky, and last time I checked, there were not sky snakes flying about the world. Unless we're thinking of dragons and planes and going the Ancient Aliens route. I really don't remember that being such a thing. It's just a weird tacked on portion. But you know what's not tacked on for this stage is its theme, which it may be my favorite in the whole series. I don't know what it is about it, I just love it to pieces. As for the fight with Snake Man, it isn't the best. The AI routine is very basic and those snakes aren't that threatening. However, Mega Man's chunkier hitbox is a lot more apparent here. Mega Man 3 goes clever and decides the Proto Man fights weren't enough. Now, it's time to revisit 4 stages, though in quite different form than before, and take out souped-up Mega Man 2 Factory Line Robot Masters. Truthfully, I love this idea, and I cannot express. And there's probably a lot of people who growing up and then playing it and were like, when they got to game 4 or 5 or 6, going, why did we not go back to this? I mean, I kind of get it in the sense of possible limitations with disk space or chip space or whatever those things are called. The cartridge space. Why it took so long to go back to it is beyond me, because I loved this idea. And it's a shame that it wasn't revisited for games long time after the fact. I mean, to be fair, they do that sort of rehash bit there for the Game Boy games, but those are their own things. I'm not counting them in this. And one of the things I do like is I like this guessing game to figure out which weapons from 3 will do the trick. Since these factory-made Mega Man 2 robots, they pack a wallop. Fight 2 per stage, it's a bit rough, but the worst bits are when you are absolutely forced to use Rush Jet or Rush Marine. I mean, Rush Jet is already OP, but having to cross over some sort of chasm with many robots doesn't really nerf it. You just have to make sure you have enough power, and if you don't, then yeah, you just sit there and either try to farm the energy for it, well, even then, if you try to farm the energy for it and you don't have enough, you're sitting at that platform. Those spots were bad ideas. Fighting those refights were really nice. And then after you go through those 4 stages, we get the last Breakman fight, which is so unnecessary. Like, it was just, there's no stage. It's just a rehash of the Hardman fight. Not even Hardman, but the fight on Hardman stage. And it's just, like, whatever, go away. Be gone. Bye-bye. So what do you do when you reach this peak? This difficulty that has gone for 12 stages into a series, 3rd game, you're working into a series, that for previous games had maxed out around the same number. Well, you cobble together some easier than any other stages in the game, toss in a plethora of E-Tanks, and pretty much just give the player a victory lap or 2 while heading to fight Dr. Wily. Sure, you have a refight with the Yellow Devil from Mega Man 1, but other than that fight, the only particular highlight is the fight with the 3 Mega Mans, but that's still really easy. Even the fight with Dr. Wily is easy. Like the developers had a difficulty stroke midway through this game and never recovered, just coasted to get through the rest of the game. It's an odd progression and can really be a head scratcher when you're expecting more trouble and this is your first time going through the game. Because you're going through it and you get through those refights with the Mega Man 2 ones and you're going, oh boy, how much worse is this going to get? And then it just falls off a wagon. And you're like, what? Huh? Okay, I guess. Now, I do like the more somber tinged tunes throughout, which is nice. So there's some really good music in it. But beyond that, there's really not a lot to applaud for the Wily stuff this time around. Also, boo for having Mega Man be saved by Proto Man. Go away, Inafune's love child. Seriously, like I know it's not maybe that rational for it, but I really am not a big fan of Proto Man. But yeah, I still love this game, despite the late game fumbling, Proto Man having to poke his nose and everything. It's still the first Mega Man game I beat, and it will always hold a spot near and dear to my heart. Hence why I dig the slide function so much. Even though it leaped far and away from the cohesive theming for its robot masters, they are interesting. Maybe not in a battle sense all the time. I do like the less than obvious idea of what works well against whom. Not to say 1 and 2 didn't have that to some degree, but more that it's a big guessing game all throughout. Rush Jet is OP, but what a great way to introduce Rush. And, with that, we have one final rung to reach. So, take care, and I'll see you then.